Hello, May class, and welcome to your next English lesson. In the previous lesson, we were writing out the first two panels of the story map, and then as an extra task, if you completed the third task, you were adding your own panel onto the story map. So in today's lesson, we're going to look at a few of the features that we mentioned in our when we were writing our toolkits, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail of them. So we are going to be looking at using onomatopoeia in our writing, but not just, onomatopoeia, but also the similes and the metaphors. So what is onomatopoeia? What I would like you to do is pause the video now and watch this short clip that lets you know a little bit more about what onomatopoeia is. From this and from what we've spoken about previously, you'll know that onomatopoeia is the sounds of words and as they sound. So if we looked at our video said that onomatopoeia is a word which sounds like what it means. Okay, so say these examples out loud, and I want you to hear how they copy the sound that they are describing. Pop, buzz, drip, hiss, bang. Okay, you can hear from those that they sound very similar to the actual sounds that you would hear if a balloon was popping, or if a bee was buzzing, or a tap was dripping, or a snake was hissing, or a firework went bang. So say them out loud with me again. Pop, buzz, bang, hiss, drip. And there's obviously lots more examples that we can use. These are just a few of them. Right, so I want you to have a look at these and spot the onomatopoeia word in these sentences. The train spluttered to a halt. The ribbits of the frog could be heard from the pond. Birds chirped merrily in the trees. The breeze wafted by as we sat by the crashing waves. Rebecca gasped in horror. We heard the bells jingle on the roof of Christmas Eve, on Christmas Eve. Right, so pause the video now and see if you can find the onomatopoeic words in these sentences. Okay, so we've got spluttered, ribbits, chirped, chirp, 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 chirp of a bird. The breeze wafted, it should have been crashing. Sorry, I've highlighted the wrong one. But you could say wafted or crashing. Gasped, jingle. Okay, I've corrected my one at the end there. A breeze wafted by as we sat by the crashing waves. We heard the bells jingle on the roof of Christmas Eve. The train spluttered to a halt. So splutter, ribbit, chirp, crash, gasp, jingle. Even these. They jingle. My bracelets jingle when they hit each other. Maybe some bells jingle, right? There are other things that can jingle as well. Keys jingle. So onomatopoeia is used to create a dramatic effect in your writing. So here are some examples that you can see. Bomb, crash, pop, zoom, vroom, boing, boom, boom. And then in the actual picture from the graphic novel we've got smash. And you can see how they're written as well. They're not necessarily just written nice and neatly. They've got nice big writing, so it's very prominent in the picture that you can see. Right. The other thing that we spoke about were similes and metaphors. So pause the video now and watch the link below to learn a little bit more about similes and metaphors, just to remind ourselves. Okay, once we have discussed these, we're going to go into a little bit more detail about this. So a simile is a comparison. So both of them are using when you are comparing something. We use similes and metaphors when we are comparing something. So a simile is when we compare something using the words like or as. So on her first day of school, Jane was as cool as a cucumber. You could say was, and then I'm actually going to share this page with you so we can look at this example. A simile describes something by comparing it to something else, using the words like or as. So, for example, the snake moved like a ripple on a pond. It was as slippery as an eel. And the important thing to remember, especially when we're doing our similes and our metaphors, is that you need to think very carefully to what you are comparing what you are comparing against each other. So I couldn't say the snake moved like a tree. Why does he move like a tree? What part of a tree's movements are similar to what you're saying a snake is being compared to? So you need to really think about that. So the snake moved like, what moves like this? So give it a thought. The snake moved like a leaf in the wind would be quite a good description. Okay. Now a metaphor, and I'm going to go back to my original one. A metaphor is comparing two different things, but you're not using the words like or as. So for example, Noah has a heart of a lion. So we know that that's meaning that he's really brave, because if you've got the heart of a lion, you're really brave. But does he actually have the heart of a lion? No, he has his heart. Okay, just like in the video they said Jess is a star. Is she really or literally a star? No, but she's a star on stage. That's what they're comparing it to. So shining bright like the star. So you could say Jess shone bright like a star. Or you can say Jess was a star or is a star, and that's a metaphor, but we're comparing it to how a star shines brightly, but we're not saying like a star. We're not using a simile, we're using a metaphor. So another example of that, let's go back, is on our previous page. So a metaphor is a word or phrase used to describe something as if it were something else. So for example, Jess is dynamite. She's not made of dynamite, but it's a way of explaining how exciting she is. Because we know that dynamite, it explodes, and it's kind of like that excitement of exploding, ready to explode like dynamite. But we don't use like or as, because that would make it a simile. So we're saying she is dynamite. Go back to my page. Right, so can you use what we have just been through and complete the following sentences? And I want you to really think about this when we're writing. So rewrite these sentences and underline the similes or the metaphors. So you're going to pause the video, write these sentences out, and underline the similes or the metaphors. So like a turtle crawling out of the ocean, the slaves dragged themselves up the pyramid. King Tutankhamun was a volcano ready to explode. King Tutankhamun had a heart like a lion, brave and true. The desert was as hot as the sun. So pause the video now, neatly write out these sentences and underline the similes or the metaphors. Once you have completed that, I want you to write 4 of your own sentences that include either a simile or a metaphor about Egypt. So really think about what you're going to compare things in Egypt. You could think about the pyramids, the sand, the weather. What are you going to compare to? Were you going to use your simile or your metaphor, remembering that your simile uses like or as, and your metaphor doesn't use like or as, but it's saying something is something that you would compare it to. So you're going to write 4 of your own sentences about Egypt that include a simile or a metaphor. So once you have finished that, you are going to do the following 3 tasks. Define what onomatopoeia, similes, and metaphors are. Come up with your own definition of them. Then I would like you to complete the panels below, including onomatopoeia and a simile or a metaphor. So think carefully Maybe you want to put a caption box in here. I'm happy for you to add a caption box where your simile or your metaphor fits, but you will then also include some onomatopoeia. There is already some there, but maybe you want to include your own. And then create your own comic strip. So I am going to let you just create a short comic strip and try to include the features that we have looked at today. So try and include onomatopoeia, try and include a simile and a metaphor. It can be about anything, and it also doesn't have to necessarily be Egyptian themed just for this task. So finish your first, second, and third task for us, please. I've lost my cursor. Okay. Once you have finished all your work, please make sure to share it with us on Tapestry. I look forward to seeing your definitions and your own little comic strips that include onomatopoeia and your similes and your metaphors.